point. But for now, we want to address these visuals that are coming in. Prime Minister Modi meeting with the leaders of the European Union. We're continuously playing out the visuals of Prime Minister Modi shaking hands with Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission chief, and Antonio Costa as well, the European Council chief. So European Commission leader von der Leyen and Antonio Costa, both of them greeting with Prime Minister Modi, and we're seeing how Modi, along with the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, is there leading that delegation of Indians meeting with leaders of the European Union. Of course, that after that all important mother of trade deals has been signed between Europe and India, shifting away complete reliance from the United States, of course, at this point in time. And on the right sides of your screens, viewers, are also visuals of that Modi-Mers meeting. Now, we're also picking that at the G7 summit in Avian, of course, Prime Minister Modi, while addressing the outreach session on reviving a balanced, shared and sustainable economic growth for all, said that fuel disruptions, fertilizers and food supply chains caused by the crisis in West Asia will continue to impact Global South for a considerable period. Megha, given that this being the Prime Minister's message at the G7 summit, where he has clearly outlined how this disruption that we saw at the Strait of Hormuz in the Middle East will not have a temporary effect, but the effect will continue to reverberate, be felt at least in the Global South. Amidst all of this, when India is the voice of the Global South, when India is the chair of the BRICS, how important it is that PM sends this message out at G7, and how resilient is Indian economy at this point in time to tackle with these challenges?
There was a very strong message that was also sent by the French President Emmanuel Macron, who's also hosting the G7 summit over here. The message that has come out from the French administration is that President Macron and Prime Minister Narendra Modi are the two pillars, one from Europe and the other one from the Global South. So Global North and Global South coming together. These are the voices representing these two parts of the globe, and how BRICS and G7 can be bridged by the way of cooperation amongst these two leaders, and bringing together, galvanizing other nations from these two groupings or these two parts of the world. Convergence is what has been the message that has been put forth by both the leaders and both the governments. And we already see that in G7, it is no longer, the rich boys club, if I may call it, because G7 was traditionally brought into implementation. It was founded back in 1975. France was the one that spearheaded it, came up with the idea of founding G7. These were the nations, the most powerful nations of the world, 7 most powerful nations of the world that came together. But things have changed, they have transformed very rapidly over the past several decades. And now the global powers of the world are not residing in Europe or North America any longer. They are at this point of time having, I think Global South is having a moment where when you have India and you have China and you have, Brazil, whose president is also present at the G7 summit, these big nations have a lot of clout. These big nations are the ones that are being wooed by these Global North countries, if I may call them, the G7 nations, to have trade with, to sign memorandums and agreements when it comes to defense deals, when it comes to semiconductors, artificial intelligence. Skilled labor is something that Europe is in desperate need of. Education policies, building up institutions. So all these are, a gamut of opportunities that Europe and the West in particular sees in India, because consumption levels are extremely high over here. vis-a-vis a very declining population when you see Europe and the West as a whole. So for companies in Europe and West or global North, if you may call it, to flourish, they will have to look towards global South. That's exactly what they're doing. For them to be able to sustain themselves, they need markets, they need more demands, and this demand is coming from India. This demand is coming from China. This demand is coming from Southeast Asia and the Indian subcontinent and Africa and South America. So this is how things stand at this time. And G7 itself has become G7 plus. You see, India, Brazil, Korea, and Kenya all are part of this grouping. Like I said, traditionally, the grouping of the most powerful nations of the world, but that definition has definitely changed, like I said, in the past few decades.
Absolutely. Megha, once again, stay on. Another important update, viewers, now. Trump, in his meeting with Egyptian President El-Sisi, gave a stern warning to Iran, saying, if I don't like it, referring to the memoranda of understanding that has been arrived on. He said, we will go back to dropping bombs on their heads. Trump also added that the text is not final, it's a memorandum of understanding, and if Iran does not behave, we will go right back to dropping bombs. Let's first hear that statement.
No, it's not final. It's a memorandum of understanding, and if I don't like it, we'll go back to shooting at them, dropping bombs on their head.
When do you expect this? The word
If I don't like it, if they don't behave, we'll go right back to dropping bombs right smack in the middle of their head, okay? Because they've misbehaved for 47 years.
All right, Megha, what we are looking at is Trump being classic Trump, once again going back on his statements, once again creating an atmosphere of uncertainty where he says that another instance could be seen where the US could resort to striking or dropping bombs on Iran if Iran does not fulfill its obligations as per the United States satisfaction.
Right. I don't know how much weight do these statements made by US President Donald Trump matter. It's off the cuff. Every single time he gets an opportunity, he loves the limelight. He loves to speak to the media. He makes all these thundering claims, but at the end of the day, it is about the MOU, the text of which document has still not been released. Trump is at the most ambiguous in telling the media about what the contents of this MOU are. He has gone ahead and made a clarification saying that while there are no immediate sanction relief that has been provided to Iran in the MOU that is to be signed on Friday, but he said we are going to talk about it later. So is there a 30-day period of ceasefire or a 60-day period of ceasefire during which there are conversations that are going to be held between both sides about the possibility of lifting the sanctions on Iran? That is very probable because, just a week ago, after the Trump administration, after US President Donald Trump himself announced that, there has been a deal that has been struck, the Strait of Hormuz is open, the US blockade on Iranian ports is also at this point of time lifted. The Iranian side, and some media outlets in Saudi Arabia also came out putting out those pointers saying that Iran will be given those sanction reliefs. And that is important because, the last time there was a deal that was struck between the Obama administration and the Iranian leadership, one of the key points was that the sanctions will be lifted in exchange of denuclearization of Iran. So again, whether it is the same deal rehashed, rebuilt and given in like packaged in a new jazzy, fancy format and just put a bow on it. Is this what it is? It remains to be seen. But I don't think we need to take Trump seriously when he goes about saying that we are going to drop bombs and completely annihilate Iran, keeping in mind that these statements have been made in the past. Nothing really has come of it. Trump has been desperately trying to seek a deal with Iran. I think the upper hand at this point of time is with Iran. So it's going to be interesting to see what this deal entails, if at all this deal is signed. Remember, it's 48 hours to go. We do not know. It's a fragile deal that seems to have been struck between both the leaders. There are a lot of moving elements in it, which means there are a lot of variables, very volatile in terms of whatever could happen, whether in Lebanon or a strike on Iran, whether by Israel or United States of America, or, I don't know, another naval vessel being shot down. Who knows what happens? So it's a wait and watch game. But Trump's statements. It's filibuster. He loves. It's a way of patting his own back and saying I'm superior, and the United States control all stakes in this deal. But that clearly is not the case.
Right, absolutely. Megha, thank you very much for joining us on this, and of course we'll keep coming back to you. With that, viewers, we're going to shift our focus. There's news coming in